Hey everybody, I am back with another book review. I think this is 9, maybe. So notice I always forget like what number it is. That's where we're at. But so this one is a little bit different because I have actually already read this book before, but it's been several years, and I didn't remember half of the stuff that happened in the book. And this is actually the start of the first like series of books that I'm going to do throughout the year, so like an actual book series. So it is the Hallowmere series, and this is the first book here in the Serpents Coils. And this is by Tiffany Trent. And before I started rereading this book, I did some quick background research because I actually had to find the last 3 books in the series. So I've had the first 3 books for a while, and I've read the first 2. I had the 3rd book, but I just never read it. So I was like, I just need to start over, just to make sure that I know what's going on before I jump back into it, because I was going to be super confused. But I was reading about it because I knew that it was a longer series and that there were supposed to be, I think, originally like 10 books in the series, and it's in I can't remember if it's in the 2nd or the 3rd one. On the front page it like tells you like all the books and like when they were supposed to come out. Well, the book series got canceled after book 6, so I'm curious to see how she ends the series in book 6, or does it drop off? Is she ever going to go back to it? I don't know. She seems to be pretty active on social media, the author does, but I haven't seen her talk a whole lot about this series. But anyway, the Hallowmere series is about a girl named Corinne, and it follows the whole idea of fairies that have infiltrated the world, and they came over from Scotland, and now they're in the South. So the story takes place in Virginia for the first book, and then the second book, I think they go to Scotland. I can't remember. But at the end of the first book, they talk about going to Scotland. So I can't remember if the second book actually starts in Scotland or not. But Corinne, it's right after the Civil War. Corinne's family has died, as far as she knows. And so she's kind of this orphan that her uncle takes in, and then he sends her off to a boarding school to try and protect her, but he never actually tells her what he's protecting her from, and she doesn't really know what's going on. So it starts this whole thing with her trying to figure out, who she should trust. Should she trust the fairies? Should she trust the people that run the school, who the fairies tell her are witches? There's a lot of moving parts that kind of go into her trying to figure out, who she should be and what she should be doing. And so there's this is an interesting book. The first book is an interesting book, and I know the series will be an interesting series, and I've been wanting to go back and finish the series for a while. But when I started reading this, I was like 17 or 18, because I think the first book came out in like 2006 or 2007. So that's when I started reading this, and I didn't know as much as I know now. Did not have a history degree like I do now. But I knew that there was like some things I'm like, I don't know if that's like gonna work historically speaking. But now that I'm rereading the book, knowing all the things that I know, there's a lot of things I'm like, I don't know, historically speaking, if that works. But it's also a fantasy book, so I can, put that aside. But it's not terrible if you are a gung-ho history person. It's kind of rough. There's some things that are very like minute, and the author says that she's not perfect. She admits that in all of her afterwards. She admits that like, I'm not a perfect historic person, but there are some things that I'm just like, you easily could look that up, such as the fact that and I had to ask somebody who knows a lot about historic fashion, but she was talking about taffeta, and I was like, taffeta would have been made out of silk, which in today's world is pretty expensive. So at that time, you know, like it would have still been pretty expensive. So all the teachers at the school would not be wearing taffeta, especially not on a daily basis. They would be wearing cotton, especially in the South in the summer. There's small things like that. But I think one of the biggest critiques that I have with this book is that and you don't really see it kind of hit until the end, but I think the author wanted to try and get this whole idea of the fairies and people that work with the fairies, and there's two sides of the fairies. There's the hallowed and the unhallowed. And so the people that work for the hallowed are, you know, good people, and I think they were trying to kind of link in voodoo and didn't quite get there. One of the characters is a slave, or a former slave, because it's after Civil War, but former slave, and they talk about like all the abilities that she has as a witch, and I think that the route that the author was trying to go just didn't come through very well. And I think part of it is just that I don't think she did her research as deep as she probably should have. That said, I think the overall premise of the story is actually a really good idea. But I don't think it's as executed, or it's executed as well, I should say, as it could have been. But we'll see. This is an easy read. I had a really, really slow day at work yesterday, so I literally read this entire book in a day. So it's an easy read. It's like 200 something pages. It's not that long. Second book is about the same. So I finished this one. I'm about to start the second book. Because they're easy reads, I will probably crank them out through. And I'll be reading other stuff in between. But I'm starting a series. And I still have a lot of other books in my pile that I am reading. So looking forward to going back through the series, revisiting. I've enjoyed revisiting the first book and just kind of reminding myself, oh, this is what the series is about. So I'm hoping throughout the year that I'll be doing some other series. Some of them that I've like going back to because I want to finish the series. I'm very much if I start a series, I need to finish the series. So there's a couple other series that I started 10-15 years ago, and I just never finished them because they were still coming out at the time. So I'll be curious to see where those go. But yeah, so that's my review. 3 out of 5 on the first book. 3 out of 5 mostly because the story itself is fine. I just feel like it could be executed a little bit better. So 3 out of 5 on that one. We'll see what the other books come out to be. And again, like I said, I'm curious to see how she finishes the series, if she finishes the series, because it got canceled after book 6 and I have all the books now. And so I'll be just kind of curious to see how it gets wrapped up. So there you go. That's the end of this book review. Again, thank you everybody who's been following along with the book reviews. People who watch every single time I post one. I'm really thankful for you all. And as always, if you have book suggestions or series suggestions, please let me know. Drop them in the comments. And if there's anything that you would like to see me talk about, or you want me to expand upon in any of my reviews, please let me know. I'm always interested to hear feedback, and I'm really enjoying doing these. So remember, we're trying to do 108. So if we're on 9, we're at 100 now. So we've got 100 more books to read this year. And like I said, these videos, I'm trying to do a video every time I read a book. And there will probably be a backlog a bit, and I'm shooting for getting one of these out a week, but be on the lookout for when I finally get some editing software, because I found one. Like I said, it's going to be a couple videos before you see it, just because I'm doing a lot of these back to back. So that will be coming up. And also, somebody mentioned if I was going to be doing all sorts of genres. Somebody asked about that. I'm pretty open to most genres with the exception of like extreme horror genre. I'm not a big fan of that. And a lot of the adult novels are very sex heavy. And I'm not the biggest fan of that either, because it doesn't further the plot ever. Like, it will never further the plot. It's just like in TV shows. This has nothing to do with the plot. Why are we spending 2, 3, 4 episodes on this? It's why I haven't watched a lot of shows. But I'm open to pretty much any genre within reason. I usually do like a quick little look-see through for to see kind of, you know, what the story is about. But I am definitely more of, I do lean into the fantasy and the historic fantasy and the historic fiction area pretty heavily. But all genres are welcome. So this video was way longer than I anticipated it being. I will see you guys next time.